Her hands trembled as she clutched the edge of the boarding pass, creased, nearly torn from the tight grip of anxiety and exhaustion. In her arms, a sleepy 4-year-old boy lay draped over her shoulder, his tiny fingers tangled in her fraying scarf. Rain pelted against the airport windows like the world itself wept with her. She was late, lost, and alone, with barely enough money to buy a single meal, let alone afford a mistake. But that mistake had already happened. With desperation blinding her, Sarah boarded the wrong flight, and unknowingly sat beside the man who would change her life forever. If you believe in the power of kindness, in the magic of second chances, and in stories that remind us of the goodness hidden in unexpected places, then take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Ripple of Hope. Your support brings these real, heartfelt stories to life and helps more people feel seen and inspired. Sarah had never flown before. Airports, with their polished floors and rushing people, made her feel like she didn't belong. She was a single mom from a small town who had scraped together every last cent to make it to her sister's place in Chicago, an escape route from the mounting bills, the eviction notice pinned to her door, and the loneliness that had weighed her down ever since her husband passed in a tragic construction accident. She had no job, no savings, and no support system except her sister's distant voice on the other end of the phone offering a couch and a new beginning. But somewhere between the overwhelming announcements and the chaos of juggling her son and a worn backpack, she walked through the wrong gate, and boarded a flight bound for New York. The airline staff didn't notice. Her boarding pass scanner beeped green, some kind of system error. So she shuffled down the jet bridge with a heart pounding in fear, her little boy, Max, tugging at her with sleepy innocence. She found her seat, one beside a sharply dressed man lost in thought, staring blankly out the window. She barely noticed him. Her mind was spinning with worry. How would she feed Max once they landed? How would she get to Chicago from New York without money? She didn't even know what she would say to her sister. Her phone battery was dying, her spirit already cracked. The man beside her, Alexander Grant, was a billionaire in a world that rarely saw his loneliness. CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country, he had wealth, power, and a penthouse overlooking Central Park. But none of it filled the ache in his chest. Since losing his parents in a car crash at 25 and distancing himself from an emotionally vacant world, he had thrown himself into work. No wife. No kids. No one waiting at home. He was successful by every definition except the one that mattered, he was utterly alone. He noticed Sarah only because of Max, his soft whimpers, the way his mother calmed him with whispered lullabies that cracked with fatigue. At first, he assumed she was just another tired mom, but as the flight dragged on, he saw more. Her shoes were torn, soles flapping with every step to the restroom. Her eyes carried stories she hadn't had the luxury to tell. She refused the snack the stewardess offered her but made sure Max had both juice and crackers. When Max finally curled up in her lap and drifted off, Alexander saw her shoulders sag, as if she had been holding up the weight of a collapsing world and could finally rest. Then came the moment, just before landing, when she opened her phone and realized her mistake. Panic gripped her. She began to shake as she whispered, "No, no, no," under her breath. Her fingers moved in frantic taps, but the screen went black. Battery dead. Alexander turned to her gently, asking if she was okay. That was the first time their eyes met. Hers were red-rimmed, brimming with tears she was trying to hide, and her voice barely escaped her throat as she explained she was supposed to be on a flight to Chicago. She had no money. No idea what to do next. What he did next wasn't out of pity. It was something deeper, a spark of human connection in a world that had numbed him. He offered her his phone. Helped her contact her sister. Paid for a hotel room near the airport. Ordered room service for Max and even arranged a flight to Chicago the next morning. But it didn't end there. Something about Sarah and her quiet resilience haunted him. He couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking of the way she carried her child, the way she never asked for help even when she was breaking. By morning, he was at the airport again. He didn't need to be. He wasn't flying anywhere. But he waited by the gate with coffee in hand, unsure what to say. When she saw him, her expression said it all: confusion, disbelief, gratitude. He asked if she'd sit with him for a few minutes before boarding. They talked. This time, really talked. She told him about the life she had left behind. The job she lost. The nights she cried herself to sleep while Max clung to her side. And he told her about his emptiness, how success felt meaningless when you had no one to share it with. Somehow, two people from opposite worlds found a mirror in each other's stories. He gave her his business card, told her to call if she ever needed anything. But weeks passed. She didn't call. Back in Chicago, Sarah focused on rebuilding. She found a part-time job at a bakery, picked up shifts cleaning offices, enrolled Max in preschool. Her sister helped, but it was still hard. Nights were long. Bills were many. And one evening, after a particularly crushing day when she was let go from the bakery due to cutbacks, she found the business card again, tucked into the last page of Max's picture book. Her hands shook as she dialed the number. Alexander remembered her voice instantly. He offered her a position, an assistant role at his company's Chicago office. She didn't have experience, but he promised training. He had already talked to HR. Her salary would be enough to afford daycare and rent. She hesitated, feeling unworthy, but took the chance. That's when things truly began to shift. She stepped into that office nervous and unsure, but over time, her confidence grew. Alexander checked in often, not as a CEO, but as a friend. He admired her strength, her humility, her fierce love for her son. And Sarah saw in him a man who had everything, but gave freely, with no expectations. Months turned to a year. She rose through the company. Max thrived in school. And through countless small moments, coffee breaks, late-night calls, shared laughter, they built something unspoken yet undeniable. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was real. It was raw. But it was beautiful. And one chilly December evening, as snow fell gently outside the office window, Alexander walked her to her car and told her he had never felt more alive than he did in the quiet moments beside her and Max. That maybe she had boarded the wrong flight, but somehow, found the right destination. Sometimes, the wrong gate leads to the right person. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that every stranger has a story, and that one act of kindness can change everything, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Rappel of Hope. Your support keeps these stories alive.